87, paid for by Term Direct.
Congress is poised to pass a bill to keep AM radio in cars, but time is running out. 82 million Americans risk losing the news, sports, talk, traffic, and vital emergency information they rely on. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress to pass this bill now.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
You're tuned in to Money Matters Boston, 1120 AM WBNW. This is WBNW 1120 AM, the Money Matters Radio Network. This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275CM FM. Concord, Boston, the Money Matters Radio Network.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange quick tip of the day. And today we're talking about estate tax reduction and asset protection strategies that can help reduce or eliminate your estate taxes. Todd, there have been major changes with the Massachusetts exemption amounts. What is the new exemption for the state? Does that mean that a married couple living in Massachusetts with $4 million in assets could eliminate their estate taxes?
So, yes, there has been some changes. Now we're almost a full year in, of course, heading into a second year into the change. The change is now $2 million. It used to be $1 million for estate tax exemption. Now it's up to $2 million. And yes, if you are married, but you actually do trust planning, you can shelter $4 million. But folks, that doesn't mean that's all you do. For folks with $3 million that want to eliminate taxes, we can do that, but we can also think about protecting assets from the cost of long-term care. It allows us to do both a little easier now with a higher estate tax exemption. So think about ways in which you can use the irrevocable trust to not only shelter and be able to reduce your estate tax by sheltering up to $2 million on the death of each spouse, but also starting that important 5-year waiting period running to protect those assets from the cost of long-term care.
The law firm of Cushing & Dolan have been helping families like yours for more than 40 years. Request your copy of Todd's brand new guide. It's called Balancing Asset Protection and Avoiding Estate Taxes. You can call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or you can request the guide from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Sometimes we know what's next. Other times, it's impossible to know. Life can change in an instant. Don't be caught standing by the next time someone's heart stops. Knowing CPR gives you the ability to act and takes you from bystander to lifesaver. CPR is a life-saving skill. Join the nation of lifesavers today by learning CPR at heart.org/nation. National support for CPR education provided by Elevance Health Foundation.
The Financial Exchange and Veterans Development Corporation are proud partners of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV provides thousands of hours of voluntary services at our VA medical centers and is the only DAV department in the country to lead a veterans housing initiative for single veterans and for those with families. These programs are critical to serving our veterans in their time of need. You can help our great American heroes by making a donation today. Please visit davma.org. That's davma.org.
Financial planning is a year-round job, and with 2024 coming to an end, now is the perfect time to take a hard look at your strategy and what changes you may want to make going forward. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and our new guide may help you understand some key numbers that could affect your planning next year. There are many important topics to review, like marginal tax brackets and retirement account income limits. If you're retired or getting ready to retire, the guide also focuses on the many ways that the government taxes your Social Security benefits. Take the time now now to reflect on your current strategy so you can be fully prepared for any adjustments you may want to make in the future. Get your copy of our new guide, Key Numbers to Know for 2025, by calling 800-393-4001. That number again is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
As a busy mom, my to-do list is full.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
Visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting DAV5K.Boston and making a donation today. The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
Kicking off the month of December, it's Chuck, Mike, and Tucker with you, and we got a busy week to get the month started here. Whole bunch of economic data. ISM manufacturing was out at 10 a.m. this morning. We'll discuss that today. We also have job openings tomorrow with the JOLTS report. On Wednesday, we get ISM services data. Thursday, some jobless claims. Friday, we get the jobs report and consumer sentiment. So it is a busy week that we've got here. But, Mike, first let's recap kind of what we saw in November, where the S&P 500 had itself a nice little month here.
Where did we close? 6% up?
Yeah, it opened the month of November at 57.23. It closed the month of November at 6,032. So, yeah, you saw basically about a 5% upward move for the month of November here. This after a choppy October. And obviously the question is, okay, like where does this market go from here? Because you're sitting pretty much at all-time highs right now. You've got a market that is expensive. It's trading 22 times forward earnings based on data from FactSet's Earnings Insight from November 22nd. So it's a steeply valued market. And the questions are all about, hey, where can this market go next year with a new administration in the White House and one that views the stock market as a report card for how they're doing economically?
Yeah, it's something we've discussed really since the beginning of November and the results of the election were known, which is it is going to be an extremely, I don't know how you describe it, narrow needle to thread or just delicate market to look forward here. And as we've talked about, there's going to be some unique challenges compared to Donald Trump's first administration. There were unique challenges then, too. They're just a different set of them as we head into 2025.
So that's where we stand right now. And if you're looking at this market, I think one thing that I do like to point out, even though tech is leading the way today, that has not been the case in this market in recent months. If you take a look at the different sectors of the S&P 500, and if you say, okay, let's look at this year to date first and see what's been doing the best. Mike, how many people had financials being the best performing sector in the S&P 500 this year when it started?
Yeah, not likely a whole lot of them.
Not many. Communication services, number 2. Okay, at least that one you say, yeah, when I look at, communication services and what falls under that umbrella, okay, you got Google and Meta in there, so there's some tech exposure. Sure, I could see that being, something that we're seeing. But, again, financials being the leader, kind of something that gives you a little bit of pause there. And then you continue down the list as far as, hey, what have the best performing sectors been? Utilities is number 3. And this one, again, financials and utilities are not two things that you typically see as, things that move in lockstep. Typically, financials, a little bit more of a cyclical exposure when the economy gets going. So do they. Utilities, much more, hey, let's flock to them when things pull back. But they've had this tailwind because of artificial intelligence and the power demands for it, and the idea that, hey, maybe this could be good for overall power capacity and overall size of the market in the U.S.
I mean, to put it bluntly, you're talking about a potential forecast here where we vastly expand demand of electricity, and notoriously utilities are pretty slow to respond to that demand. And so, I mean, if you've ever taken any economics course, that's the first thing they teach you, right? Supply and demand. What happens when demand goes up without supply increasing? You have an increase in prices. And so pretty compelling story when it comes to utilities.
Next two sectors you got industrials and consumer discretionary. Discretionary, though, I will caution, was basically one of the worst performing sectors in the market through late October. It's really been Tesla's recent performance in the last month that has kind of vaulted it into that spot. And then you've got technology, which is, again, kind of middle of the pack overall this year. But the interesting thing, S&P technology sector was the best performing sector for the first half of the year. And now if you look for, again, let's look since July 1st, just as an example here. The S&P 500, the S&P 500 technology sector, second worst performing sector since July 1st of this year. The worst performing one is healthcare. And so it's been everything else that's actually been carrying this market for the last 5 months. I know that tech and AI have gotten all this hype, but if you hopped on the AI train halfway through this year, hasn't actually been the right move for you. In terms
outside
of
a few outside of a few individual companies who we can talk about and have done quite well. If you bought the sector, right, it hasn't been the thing that's carried. Now, I think the positive side of this, to put some positive spin on it, is you don't necessarily want to see one area or one company leading and dragging up the entire market. What we are seeing is an expansion into other areas, and that can be signs of a healthy, positive market. It could also be signs of irrational exuberance and everybody just buying everything. But if I want to take the optimistic view, I'll take it as, hey, many companies are now profiting. Many companies have worked through what was a tricky 4 years and are growing their margins, and investors are appropriately rewarding them.
So let's touch on some of the economic data that we're getting this week. I know this morning at 10 a.m. we got ISM manufacturing data. ISM manufacturing PMI came in at 48.4 compared to the previous reading of 46.5. The expectation was for 47.5. And the question that I think I'm trying to sort through on ISM manufacturing here is, ultimately, you ended up with new orders, surging from 47.1 to 50.4. What I'm trying to figure out is how much of this is companies trying to front-run tariff implementation and just trying to, get stuff done before the end of the year and really before January 20th, and how much of this is an actual real uptick in longer-term capacity and capability, and I don't think that there's any way to tell that right away here.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. At 48-something, we are still in a pretty ugly survey for manufacturing in general, right? Like this is not exactly a strong story of expansion. It's just a story of improvement compared to last month.
It is, and the bulk of that came through new orders. The interesting thing that you did see in this data was, even though new orders moved from 47.1 to 50.4, prices paid went from 54.8 to 50.3, so it wasn't something where you saw a huge jump in prices as a result of, whatever expansion in activity was happening here relative to before. But the other thing that you come back to on this is, look, this is a survey. It's soft data.
Sure.
It's not something where you can, conclusively say anything about this, especially because, as we've been talking, look, for the last 2-3 years, 2 years really in particular, this data series has been in the dumps, right, and in a spot where typically it's been indicative of, meaningful recession, and there's been no supporting economic data around it that's really said, yeah, you're definitely in recession. So this is one that I think I've been trying to take it with a grain of salt for the last couple of years because
it's indicated recession for the last several, and we haven't gotten one.
Yeah, it just has not had the right signal-to-noise ratio for quite some time here. But you did have some improvement here. Whether it means anything, I don't know that you can make that judgment today. I think we are still much more looking at, hey, show me what's happening with the labor market, show me what's happening with housing. Those are areas where I think you're getting better signal than a place like this.
We've heard from a lot of retail executives over the last month or so about maybe criticizing tariffs and saying, look, it'll land in higher prices for consumers. I don't know that we've seen a lot definitive about whether or not those same retailers are stocking up like we've talked about, right? It would make logical sense for Walmart to go and buy a whole bunch of TVs, that they assume that they'll be able to sell in 2025. But I don't know that we've seen a lot of evidence that it's actually happening. And we might not for another few months. But again, to your point, it would make a fair bit of logical sense for these companies to stock up on inventory, take a temporary hit to earnings because of it, in order to avoid presumed sanctions and rather tariffs in 2025.
Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we got a couple of leadership shakeups that we're going to be discussing. One at Stellantis, one at Intel. We'll fill you in on the details after this.
This is your home for the most comprehensive coverage of the economy and the trends on Wall Street. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. Visit one or all three and enjoy the vacation of a lifetime. Each island is special in its own unique way, so whether you want the heritage of St. Croix, the pristine beaches of St. Thomas, or the calm and relaxation of St. John, the U.S. Virgin Islands is one of the top vacation spots to visit in the Caribbean. You can expect perfect temperatures, a wide variety of water sports, world-class cuisine, and a vibrant nightlife. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Make your plans now by going to visitusvi.com. Learn about all three islands and plan the ideal vacation for you and your family. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. So head to visitusvi.com for more information and to reserve your trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
Planning for later life is a year-round effort, and with the calendar about to change, there are several important numbers to understand as we turn to the new year. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. In our new guide called Key Numbers to Know for 2025, we'll discuss a variety of topics that may help you with your planning for the upcoming year. The guide focuses on many subjects, among them numbers related to retirement account income and gifting limits, Medicare Part B premiums, and marginal tax brackets, all of which are crucial to your overall planning strategy. Learn about how these numbers may affect your financial plan in 2025 by calling our office today at 800-393-4001. Ask for your free guide called Key Numbers to Know for 2025. That number again is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Early estate planning is crucial if you want to protect your assets and avoid massive tax consequences. Cushing & Dolan are experts in elder law and taxation, and their new free guide can help give you just that. It's called Balancing Asset Protection and Avoiding Estate Taxes. In it, you'll learn how to keep your assets away from the nursing home while reducing and potentially eliminating your estate taxes. If you have an existing estate plan but aren't sure about your potential liability, or you need a new plan, call Cushing & Dolan today at 866-848-5699 and get this free guide called Balancing Asset Protection and Avoiding Estate Taxes. Don't leave your assets to chance. Call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request your guide online from our website, LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
The Financial Exchange streams live on YouTube. Like our page and stay up to date on breaking business news all morning long. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The Financial Exchange is proud of our partnership with the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. This year's 5K was another tremendous success. Every dollar raised supports a wide variety of initiatives like the DAV Transportation Program, which takes disabled vets to important medical appointments that supply both the physical and mental care they need. If you'd like to help our great American heroes this holiday season, visit DAV5K.Boston and make a donation today. We thank you again for your support. The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation.
Mike, we've got a couple CEOs on the outs here. Do you want to start with Stellantis?
Sure, we can get started with Stellantis and what's been a recent. I mean, longer term, I think this company has had problems, but quite frankly, their performance was pretty decent at the onset of COVID, and they were able to really charge some high prices. And it seems that their reaction since about mid-2023 to the state of demand has been pretty abysmal, and their earnings have reflected that.
Yeah, so Stellantis, who is it's the parent company of Chrysler, just if you're not familiar with them, if you're like, what the heck is a Stellantis? It's that's the name that they picked because, I don't know, they thought it sounded great, and who knows why.
Yeah, similar ring to a General Motors or a Ford. Stellantis.
Again, I've said this before, but I've had a really bad case of Stellantis for the last couple of years.
It sounds like it, Chuck, quite honestly.
And it's been challenging to get over it. My feet are just not the same. But look, so Carlos Tavares, the CEO, is going to be stepping down effective immediately. And Stellantis shares are down over 40% this year. So it's been a real, a real dog in markets this year. And I think in terms of trying to figure out, look, what is, what's actually going on here? Couple things. Number one, U.S. dealers are saying, look, the cars that you're sending us are really expensive compared to the competition. So that's part of it. Back in September, a dealer advisory group wrote a letter to Tavares blaming him for, quote, disastrous choices in handling the market. So, like, basically saying, guys, this is just the cars that you are giving us are not price competitive, and so they're just sitting on our lots. You've also had repeated pauses of production at Italian plants this year. This led to the first national auto strike in 20 years in Italy. So, again, Italy, look, as an Italian, like, we're not exactly known for, dramatic periods of labor and political peace, but when you go 20 years without, a strike at auto plants, that's kind of notable. And then to have one come back, it's, hey, gee, what changed here? So I think overall, this is a company where you're trying to figure out, hey, what is it that they do well, and how do they, get to market the way that they want to at the prices they want to, and ultimately it comes back to leadership, and clearly the board's saying, yeah, this isn't going to work, and so you got the CEO stepping down here.
Right. And I think the stepping down of immediately is interesting too, right? This is not something where they are looking for any sort of transition period or anything along those lines, which not a huge head scratcher, but is interesting to me that, hey, this guy is out and out immediately. And it's going to be, again, like I said, a challenging turnaround because they are, I mean, what options do you have other than lowering the prices of your vehicles that clearly aren't in high demand? I don't know.
What do you think overall? I mean, I'm just trying to think of this in comparison to the other major U.S. automakers, most notably Ford and GM.
Yeah.
And you look at it, and I can look back to the 1990s, and in the 90s, all three of them were kind of on par as far as like the overall business and the operations of those companies.
Right.
And as we headed into the financial crisis, remember, GM and Chrysler needed significant bailouts to get through the financial crisis. Ford did not. But it's something where it felt like this all really started to change then, where GM came out of basically that whole financial crisis and was stronger than it was in the last 20 years. Some of that might be because of how it went through that in terms of its specific deal with the government. Some of it might have been leadership coming out with Mary Barra taking over after the ignition switch issues that they had. In any case, GM you could point to and be like, yeah, they came out stronger. Ford, you look at and you said, hey, they might not have needed money in 2008 and 2009, but man, from a strategic perspective, they've made some missteps for the last couple of years that have been problematic in terms of probably investing too much on the EV side, but they still have the F-150 and all their trucks they can rely on. You look at Chrysler and Dodge and Ram and
Jeep
and Jeep, and you look at it and you go, man, they kind of had it made. I mean, back in the 90s, and again, I know everything can change over like 20, 30 years, but you had, again, one of the most popular pickup trucks in the country with the Ram, which now, by all accounts, has kind of fallen behind both its competitors in the F-150 and what GM has with the
Silverado. Is their main selling one?
The Silverado, and I forget what the GMC version of it is,
right.
But they've fallen behind there. The Dodge Caravan was like the way that basically everyone hauled kids around in the 90s.
Lunch eaten by Honda and Toyota now.
Everyone's driving RAV4s and CRVs now, exactly. Yep. And so you kind of look at it and you go, okay, so there's this Jeep business that's there, but in terms of the overall scale, it's still niche compared to the other ones. Man, you guys were kind of in the catbird seat in a couple places, and you couldn't get there, and it's unclear what they really do well now.
Yeah, look, I think what it comes down to is GM, Ford, even Stellantis, all have vehicles that owners love and are passionate about. They have valuable brands attached to them, but Ford and Stellantis in particular have had very serious execution problems, and I'd say Stellantis have been longer running than Ford's. But in either case, like you look at Ford, the quality control issues and the investment in EV was, in hindsight, a real serious problem for them. Stellantis, I don't know what to say other than, it's been a multi-decade-long fall from grace here in terms of the most popular vehicles that are out there. Still very valuable brands, but I can't point to any one vehicle in that lineup that is more popular than anywhere else. And I can do that with Ford. I can do that with General Motors.
Intel with the CEO change as well. Pat Gelsinger has been there for almost 4 years. He's out. Instead, you're going to have CFO David Zinsner and product CEO MJ Holthouse. They're going to be the interim co-CEOs while they search for a new leader for the company long term. Gelsinger, if you're not familiar with him, everyone when he went back to run the company, everyone kind of heralded the move because they said, look, you finally have an engineer running the company again. He's someone who was the chief technical officer at Intel, earlier in the around the turn of the millennium. Hey, this is great. You're going to get someone who knows the product and knows how to build it running the company. But ultimately, some really tough decisions that he made. Look, in a business that may take a while for those decisions to pan out the way, he hoped, he's just not going to have a chance to see it through because the performance in that 4-year time period has been quite bad for the company.
Yeah, look, it's an industry where you have to make investments a decade ahead of time and hope that they pay off well, and Intel's bets were not in the right areas for what ended up paying off.
So Gelsinger is going to be out. We'll see what direction Intel goes in for their new permanent CEO, but right now, a couple of interim co-CEOs running the company. Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we got Wall Street Watch, and then we're talking Black Friday.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Heads up, athletes, coaches, and parents. Play for life, not just points. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, or HCM, is the leading cause of sudden cardiac death, especially in black athletes in sports like football or basketball. If you feel shortness of breath, chest pain, and fatigue, or have a family history of HCM, talk to your doctor. Don't let HCM bend you for good. Learn how to stay in the game at heart.org/HCM student athlete. Your heart, your health, your move.
Protect your assets and avoid tax consequences by getting Cushing & Dolan's new guide called Balancing Asset Protection and Avoiding Estate Taxes. You'll learn how to keep your assets away from the nursing home while potentially eliminating your estate taxes. Get yours today by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or request it online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
The Financial Exchange and Veterans Development Corporation are proud partners of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV provides thousands of hours of voluntary services at our VA medical centers and is the only DAV department in the country to lead a veterans housing initiative for single veterans and for those with families. These programs are critical to serving our veterans in their time of need. You can help our great American heroes by making a donation today. Please visit davma.org. That's davma.org.
Sometimes we know what's next. Other times, it's impossible to know. Life can change in an instant. Don't be caught standing by the next time someone's heart stops. Knowing CPR gives you the ability to act and takes you from bystander to lifesaver. CPR is a life-saving skill. Join the nation of lifesavers today by learning CPR at heart.org/nation. National support for CPR education provided by Elevance Health Foundation.
The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. Visit one or all three and enjoy the vacation of a lifetime. Each island is special in its own unique way, so whether you want the heritage of St. Croix, the pristine beaches of St. Thomas, or the calm and relaxation of St. John, the U.S. Virgin Islands is one of the top vacation spots to visit in the Caribbean. You can expect perfect temperatures, a wide variety of water sports, world-class cuisine, and a vibrant nightlife. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Make your plans now by going to visitusvi.com. Learn about all three islands and plan the ideal vacation for you and your family. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. So head to visitusvi.com for more information and to reserve your trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and our guide this month is titled Key Numbers to Know for 2025. Mike, when it comes to 401ks and their contribution limits, 2025 is a little bit unique in that it is the first year of the super catch-up limit.
It is, yeah. So there's a brand new contribution excess amount that you can put into your retirement plan, but only for a very specific window. You must be between the ages of 60 and 63 to participate in this special super catch-up contribution, according to the Secure Act 2.0. And so there's a little bit extra that you might be able to put in if you fall into that age demographic.
So how much is the normal 401k max? How much is the regular catch-up? And then how much is the super catch-up?
Yeah, so for the normal 401k contribution limits, the most that you can put in 2025 is going to be $23,500. If you are over the age of 50, you can do an extra $7,500 into that 401k. And then finally, if you just happen to be in that narrow band, you can do an additional $3,750 catch-up contribution on top of everything else that we already went through.
Folks, our guide this month is titled Key Numbers to Know for 2025, and this is just one of the numbers that's included in it. We also have discussions about IRA contribution limits, tax brackets, a whole bunch of different things that are included in here. How do you request the guide? Call 800-393-4001. That number again to request the guide is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Time now for Wall Street Watch. A complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Well, after the Dow and S&P 500 notched their best month of the year, investors are turning the calendar to December with an eye on the latest jobs data due out later this week. Right now, the Dow is off by 0.3% or 128 points. S&P 500 is up by 0.2% or 12 points, and the Nasdaq is up nearly 1% higher or 186 points. Russell 2000 is off by about 0.33%. Let's see here. 10-year Treasury yield up by 3 basis points at 4.22%, and crude oil is up 0.2%, trading at $68.47 a barrel. Big news in the chip sector this morning, where Intel announced that CEO Pat Gelsinger retired from the company effective yesterday. Intel CFO David Zinsser and Intel Products CEO Michelle Johnston Holthaus were named interim co-CEOs. Intel shares are up 3% on the news. Meanwhile, Stellantis shares down by 7% after CEO Carlos Tavares stepped down from his role at the Jeep maker, effective immediately, with the company cited different views between Tavares and the board of directors. Sticking with the auto sector, where Tesla up by 3% after its VP of AI software tweeted that version 13 of the company's full self-driving driver assistance software had started rolling out to some of its customers. JP Morgan upgraded Gap stock to overweight, citing a strong start to the holiday season and a multi-year growth outlook. Shares in the retailer are up 6% today. And Super Microcomputer shares are up by 18% after a special committee ruled that it found no evidence of misconduct at the AI server maker and appointed a new chief accounting officer. I'm Tucker Silva, and that's Wall Street Watch.
Mike, let's talk a little bit about Black Friday. We're starting to get some data on how the shopping has gone. I'll quote here from the New York Times. Shoppers spent $10.8 billion online on Friday, according to data on Saturday from Adobe Analytics. That's on top of the $6.1 billion spent online on Thursday, around 9% more than the previous year. Another metric from MasterCard's Spending Pulse, which measures retail sales across all forms of payment, found that online sales on Black Friday increased by nearly 15%, but that in-store sales increased by only 0.7% for an overall increase of 3.4%. So the jewelry, electronics, and apparel were the top purchases. Your thoughts on what we're seeing so far from the holiday shopping season?
Well, if it holds true, then that online spend surge is pretty robust. Like that's a big number. It still might only convert into a low single-digit overall holiday shopping season increase, and that's entirely possible. But nonetheless, if online sales come in between 9 and 15% up compared to last year, then that's huge. The few questions that I have on this are, how much of this is timing is a big one, right? So we had a very late Thanksgiving this year compared to last year, and so did people put off shopping so substantially that they had a much bigger order to fill when it came to Black Friday, and so they were just out there for more stuff? Is there some other trend playing out here where people were apprehensive about the election and were putting off purchases, and then that passed, and now you have a big surge in spending coming? I'm not entirely sure yet, but look, there's no way to phrase this, I think, as bad news. I think the worst piece that you can pull from this is that the in-store shopping only increased 0.7% year over year, and that would be less than inflation, and so that is a bad sign for the brick-and-mortar retailers out there. But most of them are participating in Cyber Monday and seeing those sales shift elsewhere, I think.
Let's talk a little bit about Cyber Monday with that. I've got a problem with Cyber Monday, Mike.
Do you now?
It's gotten too commercialized.
What? I mean, what do you mean? Like it's
gotten too commercialized. Cyber Monday.
This isn't Valentine's Day, Chuck. It was invented by commercial companies to get you to shop online.
Yes, I know. That's the bit.
That's the joke. Okay,
that's the bit.
Too commercialized.
You know, everyone always talks about, like Thanksgiving's gotten too commercialized.
Yeah, no.
Cyber Monday's gotten too commercialized.
Yeah.
It used to be this nice, quaint time when everyone just sat on their computers and didn't talk to anyone, and now it's all about shopping.
Yeah.
In any case, according to data from Adobe Analytics, Cyber Monday's spending is expected to be $13.2 billion today. That's up 6.1% from last year. This is also, though, again, listen, I can't tell you how many different retailers I got emails from 2-3 weeks ago. Hey, it's, Black Friday come early. Our Cyber Monday sale starts, on October 31st. Like, it's just, everything has kind of been extended as well. So it's very much an apples to oranges comparison in a lot of cases, just because you're seeing these sales pop up earlier and earlier, partly, as you mentioned, because of when Thanksgiving fell this year. It's the latest it ever can fall on the 28th. And so companies wanted to get a jump on those sales as opposed to having to wait until early December for Cyber Monday sales to come in.
Right. I'm taking a look around. I mean, Chuck, I know that you completed your shopping like 3 months ago, so you're not a relevant point for this argument, but I haven't seen anything on Cyber Monday that I was not seeing. I did a lot of shopping over the long weekend here. We had our office closed on Friday, so I did a fair bit of holiday shopping over the last few days. And browsing here, I don't feel as though I would have gotten any better deals over the last couple days. And I was buying the type of thing that you do look for deals on, right? Like my wife and I are each buying each other smartwatches for the holidays. I bought the kids some stuff on Amazon, and again.
Wait, you already know? Like, you've already discussed what you're getting each other?
Not entirely, but in this case, with like some of the details on a smartwatch, I was just we had already talked about that one because we bought it for. We had a momentary freak out because we had a family member with a health scare, and we were like, all right, nope, we're both getting smartwatches for the holidays here.
Yep.
But no, for everything else, no, we're not discussing that. But a lot of our holiday shopping is usually about activities. Like we're going on a ski trip in February, so guess what? The kids are all getting ski gear for Christmas this year because they have never gone skiing before.
Tucker, you been poking around on anything?
I always keep my eye on it and check out the the review websites, if you will, that are out there, and nothing. It's just information overload, really, in terms of like going through all the categories and seeing what the best deal is. It's just a lot of information thrown my way that I don't have the patience to sift through. And
I don't find that to be a useful activity either. I think what I find to be
I spent 8 hours to save $32 on 6 different gifts.
Right. Like what I find to be enjoyable and useful is, okay, I have a list of things that I'm going to be shopping for this season. And do I find any special deals on those items? Do I feel like I'm getting a real deal when I actually log in on Friday or Monday and see did they discount it any further? I get some of that endorphin rush, I guess, when I see that price knocked down. But yeah, going through Wirecutter's 150 best Cyber Monday deals, like forget about it. I don't have time for this.
Like I'll go through and look at categories that might pop out to me, like Apple deals or like kitchen deals or gaming deals. And that's it. I'm not going to go through 150 different deals. Like, forget it.
But trampoline for $700.
I didn't see that one.
Oh.
Yeah, and then shoulder surgery for $2,000 on your deductible.
I'm
Sounds
not
great.
jumping on the trampoline. Come on,
Mike. With your back, you shouldn't be jumping on anything.
Correct. Yeah.
So the only Cyber Monday thing that I do every year, I
bath towels. Like, cool. Neat.
Hey, listen, occasionally you need new bath towels. I think new bath towels are a great gift personally. But that's just me.
Yep.
The only thing I do every Cyber Monday is the liquor store that I shop at. Mm-hmm. They do a Cyber Monday sale for unlimited gift cards every year. So I basically, over the course of the year, I save up my beer money, and then they do it's a 10% off unlimited gift card. So you save an instant 10% on all of your beer and wine for the full year. And you just have to be dedicated to save that money up over, the 12 months, and then you're good to go, for that one. So that's my Cyber Monday purchase every year, including this one. Good. So I get something for myself on Cyber Monday. It's because it's the best gift that you can get, Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about what we're seeing in the world of credit card transaction fees right now. This has been a topic that's been growing in terms of the chatter about it recently, with some potential legislation coming through Congress. We'll talk about this when we return.
Text us 617-362-1385 with your comments and questions about today's show, and let us know what you think about the stories we're covering. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. SAB Solutions can track your assets and inventory to ensure that your business functions seamlessly. If your business needs a more proficient tracking system, SAB Solutions can help. They're the trusted advisor with over 15 years of experience managing products for a variety of businesses using automated data and digital technologies. Don't let inaccurate inventory levels affect your customers. Call 508-359-8370 for more information. That's 508-359-8370. Or visit them online at sabsolutionsma.com. Protect your assets and avoid tax consequences by getting Cushing & Dolan's new guide called Balancing Asset Protection and Avoiding Estate Taxes. You'll learn how to keep your assets away from the nursing home while potentially eliminating your estate taxes. Get yours today by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or request it online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. Visit one or all three and enjoy the vacation of a lifetime. Each island is special in its own unique way, so whether you want the heritage of St. Croix, the pristine beaches of St. Thomas, or the calm and relaxation of St. John, the U.S. Virgin Islands is one of the top vacation spots to visit in the Caribbean. You can expect perfect temperatures, a wide variety of water sports, world-class cuisine, and a vibrant nightlife. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Make your plans now by going to visitusvi.com. Learn about all three islands and plan the ideal vacation for you and your family. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. So head to visitusvi.com for more information and to reserve your trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange Quick Tip of the Day. And today, we're talking about estate tax reduction and asset protection strategies that can help reduce or eliminate your estate taxes. Todd, there are some high net worth clients that would like to reduce the size of their estate, but they don't want to give up access to their assets. Is there anything they can do?
There certainly is, folks. So this is a combination of things. One, you obviously want to do your basic estate planning first. Get your foundation in place, the basic revocable trust planning to help utilize whatever exemptions you don't use up through gifting. Now, when we talk about reducing the estate, we are talking about gifting. But as you said, they don't want to lose control. So there are these special trusts that are designed called spousal lifetime access trusts, where in essence, you use an LLC to keep control of the investments, manage the investments, and make distributions. And then the non-voting shares get put into these irrevocable trusts where you have each other's spouse has access to the assets. So there's a way of getting the assets into those irrevocable trusts, which are now growing outside of your estate tax-free, while at the same time working together to keep control and use what's in those trusts.
The law firm of Cushing & Dolan have been helping families like yours for more than 40 years. Request your copy of Todd's brand new guide called Balancing Asset Protection and Avoiding Estate Taxes by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. 5699, or you can request the guide from their website, LegalExchangeShow.com.
The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Business and financial news affecting the markets and your wallet. We've got it all straight from Wall Street right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Mike, let's talk a little bit about this piece from the New York Times, talking about how for small businesses in particular, the move away from cash and towards more buyers purchasing products using credit cards is impacting their bottom line as, hey, with more credit card transactions comes more fees that they have to pay to merchant networks, your Visas and MasterCards of the world. And so in a business where, look, margins are thin to begin with, if you got to be paying 2 to 3% to a Visa, MasterCard, or Amex, it can really cause things to get tight for you in your bottom line.
Yeah, I mean, for many retailers, this is the single biggest line item that they end up paying on a year-to-year basis is those credit card transaction fees. And if you're a small, if you're Walmart, you can negotiate the hell out of this thing. If you are, the local toy shop in my town, then you just take the prices. I don't have any firm data on this, but I would be interested to see, hey, what is the cash in-store spend as a percentage of total sales in 2019 compared to now? I don't even know who would track a data series like that, but if you took a look at those two, I'd be very interested to see what portion of in-store spending is occurring on a electronic means versus cash. And I've got to imagine I would bet that it's up double-digit percentages compared to pre-COVID, and that is a real trouble for these smaller stores that don't really have the sway with these credit card companies.
And I'll tell you, you look at the financials from the credit card companies, or it's really the payment networks. Like, that's what we're talking about here. Visa had revenue for trailing 12 months of $35.93 billion. Net income was $19 billion. It's not like Visa's sitting there like, oh, gee, our margins are too slim. Like, their margins are like 60% plus.
Right.
MasterCard, revenue $27 billion, net income $12 billion. Again, it's just a fat chunk of money, coming in there right now. American Express, slightly different in terms of, how they operate and everything, but still a payment network. $64 billion, net income is $9 billion. So, again, Amex is a different model there, but there's still something there. But Visa's the biggest one out there, and again, they're as close as you can be to printing money because you can't run a retailer today, Mike,
and not accept Visa
and not take Visa.
Yeah,
like that takes you out of the game entirely.
My barber is the only one that can still do
it, and that's because, listen, I say this as a proud bald man, but the day that I started shaving my head was the day that I realized, hey, barbers might have the best business going, man. Because hair always keeps growing.
Yeah.
You always need to go back.
So in terms of legislation out there, there's been something proposed to require large banks that issue credit cards to enable at least two networks to process payments with those cards. Look, I'm generally in favor of something that would promote more competition, but I keep going back to the same thing we've talked about before is if you want prices to come down, you got to go antitrust route, right? Like I'm unconvinced that saying, okay, now my Capital One credit card is required to accept payment on Visa or MasterCard. Would that truly drive down prices at all? Or do we just have a duopoly here that is driving up prices and faces no competition and needs to be broken up in some way, shape, or form?
The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. Visit one or all three and enjoy the vacation of a lifetime. Each island is special in its own unique way, so whether you want the heritage of St. Croix, the pristine beaches of St. Thomas, or the calm and relaxation of St. John, the U.S. Virgin Islands is one of the top vacation spots to visit in the Caribbean. You can expect perfect temperatures, a wide variety of water sports, world-class cuisine, and a vibrant nightlife. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Make your plans now by going to visit usvi.com. Learn about all three islands and plan the ideal vacation for you and your family. America's Caribbean Paradise is waiting for you, so head to visit usvi.com for more information and to reserve your trip today. That's visit usvi.com.
Mike, let's talk a little bit about what's going on at movie theaters. A monster holiday weekend for U.S. domestic box office numbers. $420 million estimated here in terms of the total gross. The vast majority of that coming from 3 films: Moana 2, which came out last week, Wicked, which came out the week before, and Gladiator 2, which came out the week before as well. But ultimately, just some monster numbers here, Mike.
Yeah, so Moana 2 now taking that 1 seed in terms of the best ever Thanksgiving holiday weekend sales. Previously was held by Frozen 2, and now Moana 2 taking that title, and also on inflation-adjusted dollars, it blows it out of the water. I think Moana 2 had sales of $125 million back in 2019. If you think about inflation over that period of time, 25% on $125 million. At $221 million for Moana 2, this just blows it out of the water. So I used to have a good family tradition of going to the movie theaters on Thanksgiving Day, actually. We don't do that anymore, but kind of miss that. Like, my kids don't get to do that, and we almost got them to Moana 2 this weekend, but we ended up on a train to the North Pole, which was far superior anyway.
How was the North Pole? Good?
Long ride, but it was good.
Yeah. I want to talk just a little bit more detail on this because Wicked is setting up in a position where you may be looking at a movie that ends up in the top 10 overall all time in terms of box office gross. It's a stretch for it to get there, but it's possible just because the declines that it's seeing are pretty minimal. But this is one where the combination of, A, the word of mouth on it is fantastic.
Reviews are solid.
Yeah, everything's kind of pointing in that direction. But for Saturday, just as an example, the weekly decline was about 17%. A typical weekly decline for a movie is usually around 35 to 40% week over week. So when you're only declining, in the mid to high teens, it sets you up for a potentially long box office run here. We'll have to see what Moana 2 can do as well. Obviously, it's got a bit of a head start with how big that opening week was. But you've got potentially just a monster run ahead on Wicked heading into the winter here. So we'll see where it ends up going. But thus far, really kind of minimal slowdown in terms of what you're seeing from it. And it has the potential to, again, I think it's kind of a stretch maybe to end up as a top 10 movie all time in terms of gross, but you certainly have top 20 getting somewhere near that 500 million mark being a possibility there. So a monster win for Universal on that. And for Moana 2, look, Disney needed a little bit of help. They had a little bit of a tough time with some of their releases, especially on the animation side over the last couple of years.
But they've had 2 big ones this year.
They've had 2 big ones now this year, so they've started to hit again. So rumors of Disney's demise may be a little bit exaggerated. And actually, this is going to be 3 big ones for Disney. Remember, Deadpool and Wolverine is them too.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, you don't really think of the R-rated movies there.
They're probably going to end up with the top 3 movies this year, despite all the talk. And all those probably doing 500 to 700 million. So Disney Studios, they're not dead. They're not. Let's take a quick break here. We got more Financial Exchange coming up.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you from Senior Care USA. The average funeral now costs over $10,000. That leaves your loved ones the burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay your family up to $30,000 to help pay for your funeral and other expenses. There are no medical exams. Your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled, regardless of your medical conditions, as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Call now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818, 800-378-3818, 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM, Concord, Boston. The Money Matters Radio Network. Protect your assets and avoid tax consequences by getting Cushing & Dolan's new guide called Balancing Asset Protection and Avoiding Estate Taxes. You'll learn how to keep your assets away from the nursing home while potentially eliminating your estate taxes. Get yours today by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or request it online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
The Financial Exchange and Veterans Development Corporation are proud partners of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV provides thousands of hours of voluntary services at our VA medical centers and is the only DAV department in the country to lead a veterans housing initiative for single veterans and for those with families. These programs are critical to serving our veterans in their time of need. You can help our great American heroes by making a donation today. Please visit davma.org. That's davma.org.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Our guide this month is titled The Key Numbers to Know for 2025. Mike, one of the questions that we get asked quite often is, how much can I gift in any given year without having to file a tax return or pay any tax on it? What does that number look like for 2025?
Yeah, there's a tremendous amount of confusion about this, Chuck. I think there's a lot of folks who assume that when you give a gift or receive a gift, there's taxes due at the time. And that is almost never the case unless we are talking about tremendous dollar amounts.
Sure.
In 2025, the gift tax exclusion amount is going up to $19,000 from $18,000. That means that you can give up to $19,000 to any individual without having to file the special return of a gift.
What about if I am trying to make a gift in conjunction with a spouse? How does that work in terms of what we're able to do?
Yeah, I mean, you're able to double it immediately, right? So that $19,000 gets doubled. Keep in mind, too, that these are the gift tax limits per individual. And so you have seen people say, okay, I'm going to gift money to my son, my daughter-in-law, their 3 children, and in each of those cases, if you are married, that could be $38,000 per person without even have to file a tax return.
Our guide this month is titled The Key Numbers to Know in 2025, and it covers these numbers and a whole bunch more that can help you optimize your financial plan. We also have discussions about IRA contribution limits, tax brackets, a whole bunch of different things that are included in here. How do you request the guide? Call 800-393-4001. Again, that number is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. Visit one or all 3 and enjoy the vacation of a lifetime. Each island is special in its own unique way, so whether you want the heritage of St. Croix, the pristine beaches of St. Thomas, or the calm and relaxation of St. John, the U.S. Virgin Islands is one of the top vacation spots to visit in the Caribbean. You can expect perfect temperatures, a wide variety of water sports, world-class cuisine, and a vibrant nightlife. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Make your plans now by going to visitusvi.com. Learn about all 3 islands and plan the ideal vacation for you and your family. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. So head to visitusvi.com for more information and to reserve your trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
Are you retired like me and you just found out you owe the IRS a ton of money? Well, what would your life be like if they took your retirement savings away from you? They can do it and your property. If you owe the IRS back taxes or you haven't filed in a while, the Tax Relief Line is here to help you. They can stop the IRS from taking your retirement savings. If you qualify, you could have your tax bill reduced to 0. That's right. If you're retired and you owe the IRS a lot in back taxes, you could have your entire tax bill reduced to 0 due. The IRS has now hired thousands of new employees, so they're ready to come after you. Don't let them take your retirement savings or property. Make this free call now.
800-251-2153. 800-251-2153. 800-251-2153. That's 800-251-2153.
Heads up, athletes, coaches, and parents. Play for life, not just points. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, or HCM, is the leading cause of sudden cardiac death, especially in black athletes in sports like football or basketball. If you feel shortness of breath, chest pain, and fatigue, or have a family history of HCM, talk to your doctor. Don't let HCM bend you for good. Learn how to stay in the game at heart.org/HCM student athlete. Your heart, your health, your move.
The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting DAV5K.Boston and making a donation today. The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
Kicking off hour 2 of the Financial Exchange is Chuck, Mike, and Tucker with it. And stocks are, look, most stocks not doing well today, but a small few are lifting the S&P 500. So the Dow is off 174 points. The S&P is up 5 points right now. It's largely being driven by Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Tesla, Google, and Meta that are all up north of 1%, between 1 and 3%. The vast majority of stocks, though, currently down in the S&P 500. Right now I'm seeing 224 more stocks down than up in the S&P 500. So, again, just tells you that, hey, the broad index is not, you're not seeing a broad-based rally today. It's a few companies that are driving the returns. And because those companies are tech, you're seeing the NASDAQ up 0.83%. So tech leadership kind of taking the reins today, even though, as we discussed in hour 1, the last 5 months that we've seen in markets, tech has actually been one of the worst performing sectors in the S&P 500. So we'll see if this is just a one-day interruption or if it starts to kick off something new here. But overall, tech doing well today. Everything else kind of saying, we don't really enjoy this. Bonds, 10-year Treasury is up 1.7 basis points to 4.211%. That 10-year Treasury has come down about 0.25% over the last several weeks here, so you've got a little bit of downward momentum on that side of things. Oil, West Texas Intermediate up 51 cents a barrel to 68.51. We've just been chopping around that high 60s range for a while. But, Mike, We got some renewed downward movement in national gas prices, another 0.4 cents down to 3.04 7/10. So we're still knocking on the door of that $3 national average. Might be able to get there by the end of the year, but we've kind of had trouble getting over the finish line in recent months. And gold today down $15 an ounce to $2,666 even at the moment.
In terms of catalysts for a continued rally through year-end, a Santa Claus rally, if you will, we do have the upcoming Fed meeting on December 18th. Currently, Fed funds rate sitting at 4.5 to 4.75. According to the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, about a 2/3 likelihood that they cut another 25 basis points at that meeting. And a few data points coming in between now and then to either justify or reverse course for Jerome Powell in terms of that meeting, the jobs report this Friday. When do we get CPI? Is it before that December 18th meeting?
It is, yes. Yeah. CPI is going to be, let me get you the exact date for it. It's going to be on December 11th, so next Wednesday.
So, could be the catalyst, could be optimism on retail sales. We'll see what comes here, but not a lot of earnings between now and end of the year.
Let's talk a little bit about the U.S. jobs market, because this is something that we've been watching pretty closely over the last 6 to 9 months now in terms of the slowing that we've seen in the jobs market. It still has not gotten to the point where it's causing actual meaningful problems for the U.S. economy, but we've remarked that, look, if this continues, it's kind of getting close to stall speed, and once the jobs market gets there, usually, the U.S. economy is already in recession at that point. But again, is there more productivity growth that's happening? I don't know. Is there something else that's kind of keeping the economy afloat? But the jobs market has had some concerning signs for, I would say, a decent chunk of this year. But the rest of the economy has just kind of shrugged it off.
It has, yeah. So we'll get that report. I'm trying to think of what's the kind of replacement pace for jobs that we need to see created to not see unemployment start increasing long term. I mean, I know about 2 million people turn 18 every year. You have retirees, you have immigration, but what's that pace that we're looking for to see a at least stable job market, Chuck?
The estimates that I've seen, and again, it's always in flux. There's never anything where it's like, this is the exact number you need. You need somewhere between 60 and 100,000 jobs a month created in order for the unemployment rate to not rise typically at this point.
So expectations, 183,000 jobs created. We're continuing to just look for signs of our companies stressed to the point of laying off. And the honest answer has just been pretty persistently that's not been the case. Certainly hiring plans have come down. There's been more pressure on margins, more pressure on expenses, and hiring managers, in many cases, they've lost their jobs. But that inclination towards layoffs hasn't come, and I don't really see the catalyst for it immediately, at least. When you talk about tariffs, when you talk about other actions, that's the type of thing that could spark those, but we're just not seeing that right now.
And that 195,000 projected job growth that the market's anticipating. Remember, the previous report showed only 12,000 jobs created, largely because you had 2 hurricanes that came through right during the data collection period, and so we weren't sure what kind of data we were going to get. So part of this is kind of a makeup for that, saying, yeah, we're going to get, a chunk of people that are, now able to respond to the survey and say that they're, working and yada, yada. But overall, if you average that couple months, you're talking about 100,000 jobs created on average, which gets you kind of at the top end of that stall speed that you need in order to simply not see the unemployment rate rise in theory. Again, this is all theoretical. None of it actually plays out exactly like that on a monthly or quarterly basis here. So I think this is a jobs report that we're just going to kind of get a sense of, hey, how much of October was due to hurricanes and how much of it was an actual slowdown. I think that's what we can start to glean here. But it still is going to be one that's skewed by that. And so just as we did on that one being weak, where we said, hey, you got to look through this, I kind of look at this one and say, you kind of have to look through this because this is the makeup report. And it's going to be, I was saying this is, going back to September, you're going to need to wait until January or February to get a good handle on what this jobs market actually looks like.
Yeah.
And the problem there is that the Fed is potentially at a critical decision-making threshold here. They've got a meeting coming up in 2 weeks, as you noted. They've got another one 6 weeks after that in January. And so, hey, we need good quality data, and it's just not there because these hurricanes have disrupted the data so much still over much of the fall.
Yeah, they've hinted at this desire to potentially pivot here and stop cutting and slow down the pace of decreases. And you're right, if you're not getting reliable data on weakness or strength in the job market, that muddies the water a fair bit. I will say the one thing that has been quite consistent, Chuck, is the layoff data, right? When we look at jobless claims, it's just been amazingly consistent. And, yeah, we saw some upticks around the hurricanes, but not substantial ones. And that, historically has been where this stuff shows up first. And there's just no signs of weakness there.
Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we got trivia, and then we're talking a little bit about something that the Fed is going to be doing next year. We'll fill you in on exactly what that is when we return.
Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. If you run a small business, mismanaged inventory can be a major problem for you and your customers. SAB Solutions has been a trusted advisor in helping companies with inventory management for more than 15 years. Using real-time data and digital technology, SAB Solutions can transform your traditional storeroom into an intelligent warehouse, making your business operate more efficiently. For more information, call 508-359-8370. That's 508-359-8370. Or visit them online at sabsolutionsma.com.
The Financial Exchange and Veterans Development Corporation are proud partners of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV provides thousands of hours of voluntary services at our VA medical centers and is the only DAV department in the country to lead a veterans housing initiative for single veterans and for those with families. These programs are critical to serving our veterans in their time of need. You can help our great American heroes by making a donation today. Please visit davma.org. That's davma.org.
The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. Visit one or all three and enjoy the vacation of a lifetime. Each island is special in its own unique way, so whether you want the heritage of St. Croix, the pristine beaches of St. Thomas, or the calm and relaxation of St. John, the U.S. Virgin Islands is one of the top vacation spots to visit in the Caribbean. You can expect perfect temperatures, a wide variety of water sports, world-class cuisine, and a vibrant nightlife. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Make your plans now by going to visitusvi.com. Learn about all three islands and plan the ideal vacation for you and your family. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. So head to visitusvi.com for more information and to reserve your trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange quick tip of the day. And today we're talking about estate tax reduction and asset protection strategies that can help reduce or eliminate your estate taxes. Todd, there have been major changes with the Massachusetts exemption amounts. What is the new exemption for the state? Does that mean that a married couple living in Massachusetts with $4 million in assets could eliminate their estate taxes?
So, yes, there has been some changes. Now we're almost a full year in, of course, heading into a second year into the change. The change is now $2 million. It used to be $1 million for estate tax exemption. Now it's up to $2 million. And yes, if you are married, but you actually do trust planning, you can shelter $4 million. But folks, that doesn't mean that's all you do. For folks with $3 million that want to eliminate taxes, we can do that. But we can also think about protecting assets from the cost of long-term care. It allows us to do both a little easier now with a higher estate tax exemption. So think about ways in which you can use the irrevocable trust to not only shelter and be able to reduce your estate tax by sheltering up to $2 million on the death of each spouse, but also starting that important 5-year waiting period running to protect those assets from the cost of long-term care.
The law firm of Cushing & Dolan have been helping families like yours for more than 40 years. Request your copy of Todd's brand new guide. It's called Balancing Asset Protection and Avoiding Estate Taxes. You can call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Miss any of the show? The Financial Exchange Show podcast is available on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Hit the subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
All right, let's do a little bit of trivia here on the Financial Exchange. Over the weekend, news came out that President Biden is issuing a pardon for his son, Hunter Biden. Only 2 presidents in history failed to issue a pardon. William Henry Harrison, who died after only weeks in office, and James Garfield, who was assassinated after only 5 months in office. Trivia question today: which U.S. president issued the most pardons during his time in the White House? Once again, which U.S. president issued the most pardons during his time in the White House? Be the third person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer, and you win a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Once again, be the third correct response to text us at 617-362-1385 to get that t-shirt. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Mike, next year the Federal Reserve goes through a policy framework review, which are we going to cover that live?
Oh, we have to. Yeah, live reporter from wherever it is they do this, and this is pretty niche, but it's honestly fairly important for those that look at mistakes that I would call mistakes from the Federal Reserve over the last few years. I know that this is fairly boring stuff, but you have to remember that in 2022, on the cusp of the highest inflation we've seen in 4 decades, the Fed was stimulating the economy in different ways based on the framework that they had that was kind of left over from 2008. And so it does need to be examined. It needs to be looked at. And mistakes that were made over the last 4 years hopefully get acknowledged and corrected going forward.
In terms of, how this actually impacts the average person out there, what changes would you expect, like, an average American to see as a result of this framework review? The answer is not many, quite honestly.
Yeah, I struggle with that, Chuck. I mean, can they make framework changes and policy changes that prevent the next period of high inflation? I hope so, or mitigate it at least, but, being able to tie those policy changes to that next lack of inflation, that's pretty challenging.
And some of the stuff is, really technical in here. I'll give you just a quote from this Bloomberg piece. This is from Bill Dudley, by the way, who was the Federal Reserve Bank of New York president for 10 years, from 2009 to 2018. Third, the Fed should change its interest rate target. The federal funds rate is obsolete, tracking a market that banks mostly don't use anymore. This has complicated the central bank's job. In 2015, for instance, it introduced an overnight reverse repo facility to keep the Fed funds rate from falling below its target range. The Fed should have switched to the interest rate on the Reserve's bank hold at the central bank a year ago, a power the Fed got back in 2008. Better late than never. This is not something that will impact average human beings in any way, shape, or form.
No.
So
might be a good idea.
But this also gets at what I think is a core underappreciated part of the Fed and what it does. It makes sure that the plumbing works. Mm-hmm. The Fed, they are financial plumbers. Every day, Jay Powell goes in, he walks in with his, he's got his overalls on and everything with the purple tie underneath. He goes in, he says, I got my, my dollar plunger here just in case I need to, get any extra dollars out of the system. And that's what Jay does. Like, I know that we talk about, hey, they, try to control, inflation and unemployment. Ultimately, the first thing that the Fed does, and where you see them make these big policy pivots, the first thing they do is make sure that the financial system actually works. And that specifically gets at making sure that credit can flow. During 2020, when the pandemic was kind of in full swing in March of that year, one of the biggest things they did, they said, look, we'll basically buy any corporate bond that you need us to buy. They never actually had to use it,
right?
But it was something where just by making the offer, it allowed corporate bonds to still be, sold freely and easily there. In 2008, the reason why things were getting so ugly was that lending mechanisms were seizing up, and so they were trying to say, look, we need to make sure that the financial system actually works because no one wants to lend money to each other because they don't trust what the other person is holding and that they're still going to be there the next day. So the first thing, the prerequisite for being able to, in theory, help to keep unemployment and inflation low is making sure that the financial plumbing works. And a lot of the stuff that they talk about in these framework reviews, it's plumbing.
So then let's talk about the larger question that Dudley seems to be pointing here, which is your framework, Federal Reserve, for quantitative easing. And the point he makes is, look, through March of 2022, the Federal Reserve was purchasing trillions of dollars in assets at a time when, with hindsight, pretty clear that we were about to reopen. People were sitting on a lot of cash, supply chains were still messed up, and we were going to be dealing with inflation. And so his point is, look, you are dealing with a framework for policy that didn't really make a lot of sense at the time. I don't know that I put that all at quantitative easing framework. It seems to me that the Federal Reserve had an entire framework for their entire policy that was hinged on the low inflation post-Great Recession framework of the past, and they failed to adapt any of that towards the realities of 2020.
Yeah, look, so you and I were both pretty critical of the Fed in the first, half of 2022 when inflation was on its way to 9%. And we're sitting there, we're like, guys, why are you hiking by 0.25% at a time?
Yeah.
Like, what I remember sitting here during the January meeting being like,
bump it to 5.
Guys, what are you doing?
Yeah. and
look, they obviously weren't going to go at 5% like I wanted them to, but yeah, they finally got the message that, hey, we got to start moving by half and then 0.75% per meeting in order to get this to where it needs to be. But I think part of this, if we look back at 2021 just as an example, I do think it's reasonable for the vast majority of 2021 for the Fed to have just been like, guys, we have no idea what's going on here.
Yep.
Everything is so disrupted. We're not going to just press a button if we might need to undo it a little bit later, just because things are moving so quickly and things are so drastically different from anything we've ever seen. Now, by January of 22, when inflation was at 7.5%, and you're sitting there saying, well, we're going to move by 0.25% now, and then the one that really still cooks my grits is the March meeting that year. Russia had just invaded Ukraine. Oil prices are through the roof. And Powell comes out and is like, we don't want to do anything that, we're not sure if this is going to be inflationary or deflationary. It's like, guys.
Seems pretty obvious.
Yeah. Use the 9-pound thing attached to your neck, and let's make this work a little bit. So, I don't know that that's policy framework so much as Powell was just gun shy after 2018 when he got spooked by the market after raising rates too far, too fast, and had to walk things back. And I think he was fighting the last battle more than the policy framework was wrong.
Yeah, well, and I think that might be the overall lesson, and I also worry that lesson gets dragged into the next crisis that we face, whatever it might be, is you use yesterday's playbook to solve today's problems. And in so doing, what the Fed did in 2022 was assume that we were still in an economy that was going to have a tough time generating any sort of real inflation, that because of demographics or just our makeup, we weren't going to see that show up, and so they were more worried about the employment side of things when they should have been looking at the realities of 2020. And my fear is that next time we're faced with a really bad recession with high unemployment, Is the Fed going to use their most recent framework of, hey, we better not do too much because look what happened in 2022. We bought bonds into one of the highest inflationary environments that we've ever seen, and that really damaged American households when during the next recession, who knows, that might be the exact thing that you need at the time. And so that's the framework that I hope is evaluated and more than anything else just reckoned with of, hey, what were the decisions that led us to do what we did in 2022, and how do we not repeat that next time?
Yeah, I think that's totally reasonable. Taking a look at markets right now, the Dow is down 111 points. The S&P's up 11. The NASDAQ up 161. So, again, kind of mixed trading with tech being one of the only areas that really is kind of moving higher today. Everything else just not really wanting to everything else just had a little too much turkey. A little too much stuffing, you know. I get it. We've all been there. But market's struggling to find any convincing direction aside from a few tech companies. Let's take a quick break, and when we return, we are going to have the trivia answer for you, and then a piece from Bloomberg. It's titled, What Trump's Next Trade War Could Look Like, a Guide.
Bringing the latest financial news straight to your radio every day. It's the Financial Exchange on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The Financial Exchange and Veterans Development Corporation are proud partners of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV provides thousands of hours of voluntary services at our VA medical centers and is the only DAV department in the country to lead a veterans housing initiative for single veterans and for those with families. These programs are critical to serving our veterans in their time of need. You can help our great American heroes by making a donation today. Please visit davma.org. That's davma.org.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Early estate planning is crucial if you want to protect your assets and avoid massive tax consequences. Cushing & Dolan are experts in elder law and taxation, and their new free guide can help give you just that. It's called Balancing Asset Protection and Avoiding Estate Taxes. In it, you'll learn how to keep your assets away from the nursing home while reducing and potentially eliminating your estate taxes. If you have an existing estate plan but aren't sure about your potential liability, or you need a new plan, call Cushing & Dolan today at 866-848-5699 and get this free guide called Balancing Asset Protection and Avoiding Estate Taxes. Don't leave your assets to chance. Call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request your guide online from our website, LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. Visit one or all three and enjoy the vacation of a lifetime. Each island is special in its own unique way, so whether you want the heritage of St. Croix, the pristine beaches of St. Thomas, or the calm and relaxation of St. John, the U.S. Virgin Islands is one of the top vacation spots to visit in the Caribbean. You can expect perfect temperatures, a wide variety of water sports, world-class cuisine, and a vibrant nightlife. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Make your plans now by going to visitusvi.com. Learn about all three islands and plan the ideal vacation for you and your family. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. So head to visitusvi.com for more information and to reserve your trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and our guide this month is titled Key Numbers to Know for 2025. Mike, when it comes to 401ks and their contribution limits, 2025 is a little bit unique in that it is the first year of the super catch-up limit.
It is, yeah. So there's a brand new contribution excess amount that you can put into your retirement plan, but only for a very specific window. You must be between the ages of 60 and 63 to participate in this special super catch-up contribution, according to the Secure Act 2.0. And so there's a little bit extra that you might be able to put in if you fall into that age demographic.
So how much is the normal 401k max? How much is the regular catch-up? And then how much is the super catch-up?
Yeah, so for the normal 401k contribution limits, the most that you can put in 2025 is going to be $23,500. If you are over the age of 50, you can do an extra $7,500 into that 401k. And then finally, if you just happen to be in that narrow band, you can do an additional $3,750 catch-up contribution on top of everything else that we already went through.
Folks, our guide this month is titled Key Numbers to Know for 2025, and this is just one of the numbers that's included in it. We also have discussions about IRA contribution limits, tax brackets, a whole bunch of different things that are included in here. How do you request the guide? Call 800-393-4001. That number again to request the guide is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Text us at 617-362-1385 with your comments and questions about today's show, and let us know what you think about the stories we are covering. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Trivia question today was, which U.S. president issued the most pardons during his time in the White House? That would be FDR, who issued 3,687 pardons while in office. Over 1,000 more than second place, which was Harry Truman, who issued 2,044 pardons. Conchetta from Bedford, Mass. is our winner today, taking home a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Congrats there. And we play trivia every day here on the Financial Exchange. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Mike, let's talk about this piece from the Bloomberg today. It's titled, What Trump's Next Trade War Could Look Like, a Guide. And it basically tries to lay out, hey, here's one potential path that this could take that we think is likely over the next year or two.
Yeah, and look, I think the key piece here is, unless you have a position that is going to be guiding this policy, I would be really hesitant to implement any strategy based on what you think might occur over the course of all of this. But, a few things seem pretty likely. It seems fairly likely that tariffs on some portion of imported goods into the United States are going up, and taxes are on Americans are likely staying flat or going down. And so if you use that as a general framework, I think you can paint a picture for broadly what the economy looks like. But then how that plays out to company by company, I'm just unconvinced that there's a real clear strategy there.
No, I do think we're continuing again. None of us are in the room when any of this is happening as far as, nomination conversations and things like that. But I'm really, 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 really begging people to look at this as something that is a fundamentally different approach potentially than the first term that we saw. And there was some reporting from Axios over the weekend. It was yesterday. I'm going to quote here. Trump has been telling friends he denied Robert Lighthizer, his pro-tariff China hawk U.S. trade representative in the first term, a cabinet role because he's, quote, too scared to go big. He's loyal but too timid to take big, risky swings, Trump contends. And ultimately, in the U.S. trade representative role, he ended up nominating Jameson Greer, who is someone who's basically worked with Lighthizer for the last 10 or 15 years and has kind of learned from him. So, again, kind of apple meet tree type situation. But I don't think you are going to get the same approach as the first term in terms of, hey, here come big tax cuts and everyone's just going to be happy and you go forward on this. This is really a different approach that has the potential to cause some pain in the U.S. economy at first, and then you potentially have, the tax cuts and benefits and things like that come after. But I think we need to be really, really careful about assuming, hey, just because you have, a Republican president with Republican House and Senate, that you're going to get the exact same thing that you saw the first time. All of the, everything that we're hearing from, and again, it's anecdotal, but everything that you're hearing about this process for picking, different cabinet secretaries and things like that, it's a different process than what we heard the first time. And I look, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, who knows? We'll know in a year. I have no idea if I'm going to be right or not on this, but this is a different process than what was being run 8 years ago.
Folks, I want to talk to you about the brand new guide from the Armstrong Advisory Group for the month of December. It's all about a quick reference guide you can use to look at the numbers for 2025 as you start to evaluate your taxes, your retirement contributions, and all of the planning details that you have going into next year. We know that tax rates are likely to change, probably starting in 2026, or at least change from where they're presumed to be starting in 2026, but that gives you a lot of opportunity to take advantage of the current tax code in its current format. How much can you take as a standard deduction off of your taxes? How much is going to be in an earned income tax credit? Where do you fall in terms of the overall brackets, and how do those brackets work? How much will your Social Security be taxed in 2025? If you could use a quick guide that you can pull out throughout next year to take a look and make sure you understand how the numbers are going to work for you, please give the Armstrong Advisory Group a call at 800-393-4001. Again, the name of the guide is Key Numbers for 2025. You can get a copy of it by calling us at 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Mike, do you want to talk about portfolios, Social Security, or financial scams?
Let's go to the financial scams. I was thinking about talking about this earlier when we were referring to credit cards, and it was actually following on an interesting conversation I had over the Thanksgiving holiday, because when you get with family, I was dealing with a lot of my older family members, and we were talking about check scams, and a lot of them just weren't aware that check scams are very much on the rise and, back in vogue, if you will. People just intercepting checks and then using, frankly, much better technology these days to be able to scan them in and rewrite those checks and get them deposited at other financial institutions. And fortunately, with check fraud, your bank is generally required to deal with that. That's a fraud rather than a scam if somebody intercepts your check and goes and rewrites it elsewhere. But It's still a massive hassle. It's a massive hassle for those that you're trying to pay. It's a massive hassle for you. You likely have to change bank accounts and all sorts of issues that you have to deal with. But so I was talking to family members about services like Zelle, and then I had a family member shoot me an article on the number of Zelle scams, and that was an interesting piece there because the risk of check fraud is out there and it's problematic and annoying, but the rise of scams and people becoming convinced that they should send money to a fraudster, that's what's been growing tremendously over the last several years, and you are seeing it on platforms like Zelle that are generally considered more secure than writing a check.
Yeah, and the key distinction there is a fraud is something that someone perpetrates generally without your knowledge.
Yeah.
They steal your credit card number and try to buy a bunch of stuff, and okay, that gets refunded. Scams, on the other hand, are when generally, this is the definition from who is this? This is just, I guess, in the U.S. Law Code. Scams, on the other hand, are, hey, you got convinced to send money to someone. There is no protection that's afforded to people in that case in just about all circumstances, because you are making the choice. And the point that this Bloomberg piece makes is, look, if you get convinced by someone on the street to give them $10, you don't go to the bank and be like, hey, I need my $10 back, I was scammed. No, that was a you decision. It still doesn't make it easy when you're now talking about, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars in different types of scams. But this is a growing problem because it's gotten really easy for scammers to be able to, just send either emails or texts or phone calls to just a wide net of people with the idea that, hey, if I send this to 10,000 people, 9,999 are going to ignore it or like send me, a text message being like, screw off, like go away. But if one person gets hooked by this, man, I could make thousands of dollars. Yeah. That's what the scammer's thinking. And especially with the prevalence now of artificial intelligence, you've got even newer tools to, potentially impersonate loved ones and impersonate someone working at a financial institution. It gets harder and harder for the average person to try to weed their way through all of this.
Well, and 50 years ago, it would have been next to impossible for somebody to pull this off from a foreign country. Right? Like, we'd be able to prosecute this in decades past when we found it because the guy was operating 2 states over and was running a mail fraud, and you catch that person and put them in prison. Today, when somebody is operating from Russia or from Iran
the person's
or
in
North
Georgia,
Korea,
the country, not the state.
Like, how are you going to, extradite that person and charge them? You're not. And so, there are probably smart solutions to this problem and others that I consider to be quite dumb. A Senate subcommittee report in July, for instance, called for a new requirement on banks to reimburse customers who can show they were tricked into authorizing payments to criminals. I don't love that idea. So all of a sudden, banks are now covering all these additional costs of people getting scammed out of money. What does that do? Well, it drives up costs for everyone. Right? A bank isn't just going to say, yeah, we'll eat that. No, they are going to end up having to charge a lot more for those losses that they incur like they do on credit cards. They might beef up security measures, too, to prevent it from happening, but I don't know that that's the right solution either.
Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, it's time for Stack Roulette.
Miss any of the show? Catch up at your convenience by visiting financialexchangeshow.com and clicking the on-demand icon where you'll find all of our interviews and full shows. This is your home for the latest business and financial news in New England and around the country. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Financial planning is a year-round job, and with 2024 coming to an end, now is the perfect time to take a hard look at your strategy and what changes you may want to make going forward. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and our new guide may help you understand some key numbers that could affect your planning next year. There are many important topics to review, like marginal tax brackets and retirement account income limits. If you're retired or getting ready to retire, the guide also focuses on the many ways that the government taxes your Social Security benefits. Take the time now to reflect on your current strategy so you can be fully prepared for any adjustments you may want to make in the future. Get your copy of our new guide, Key Numbers to Know for 2025, by calling 800-393-4001. That number again is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Early estate planning is crucial if you want to protect your assets and avoid massive tax consequences. Cushing & Dolan are experts in elder law and taxation, and their new free guide can help give you just that. It's called Balancing Asset Protection and Avoiding Estate Taxes. In it, you'll learn how to keep your assets away from the nursing home while reducing and potentially eliminating your estate taxes. If you have an existing estate plan but aren't sure about your potential liability, or you need a new plan, call Cushing & Dolan today at 866-848-5699 and get this free guide called Balancing Asset Protection and Avoiding Estate Taxes. Don't leave your assets to chance. Call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request your guide online from our website, LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. Visit one or all three and enjoy the vacation of a lifetime. Each island is special in its own unique way, so whether you want the heritage of St. Croix, the pristine beaches of St. Thomas, or the calm and relaxation of St. John, the U.S. Virgin Islands is one of the top vacation spots to visit in the Caribbean. You can expect perfect temperatures, a wide variety of water sports, world-class cuisine, and a vibrant nightlife. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Make your plans now by going to visitusvi.com. Learn about all 3 islands and plan the ideal vacation for you and your family. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. So head to visitusvi.com for more information and to reserve your trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Like us on YouTube and get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you in part by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism. The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. With winter on the horizon, now's the time to start looking at a fabulous holiday vacation, and there's no better place than the U.S. Virgin Islands. Enjoy perfect weather, world-class dining, incredible beaches, and a vibrant nightlife. No passport is needed, and there's no money to exchange. Take your next vacation in America's Caribbean paradise, the United States Virgin Islands. Go to visitusvi.com to book your trip. That's visitusvi.com.
Mike, what do you got for me for Stack Roulette?
I want to talk about America's favorite fast food restaurant, McDonald's, and the piece from Bloomberg, inflation tug of war here. I guess question for both you and Tucker. McDonald's place in the fast food space. What are the words that come to mind for you immediately? For me, it's fast, cheap.
I was thinking Big Mac, but that
Okay.
was different from. We were in a different spot there.
Yeah. Descriptions.
Consistent.
Consistent.
Like,
yeah.
At every single place, it's going to be the exact same.
Go-to.
Yeah. So, I mean, initially my thinking was, hey, McDonald's is to fast food what Walmart is to retail. Pretty reliable, know what you're going to get, and lowest prices out there. And my concern for McDonald's, as this piece kind of points out, is that I think they might be losing part of that. They are still amazingly consistent. I would say more consistent than you get out of a Walmart, because from place to place you can have different inventories, you can have different, helpfulness in terms of the workers. McDonald's, you don't really have to worry about that. But due to the receipt debacle over the last couple of years, right? You remember you had the people posting like $30 receipts for Big Macs and fries and a Coke, like, because they do not control pricing, because they have the franchise model. I think McDonald's has started to lose a little bit of that lowest cost out there for food reputation that they've so thoroughly built and maintained over the last few decades. And I think they're fighting for that back a little bit right now, and I'm not sure they'll be able to completely regain it.
Let me ask you this. Who do you think occupies that high ground then?
I don't know that anybody else does.
I
just think that they are more now on par. If I think of low-cost fast food, I don't know that I differentiate anymore between a Wendy's, a Burger King, and a McDonald's. And if not, then that might be a real problem for them.
Yeah, I could see that being the case. I wonder how much of it is just kind of ingrained in like the culture, though.
Right.
That, like, you look for the arches,
Yeah.
It's almost a reflex. It's like going to Google to search for something,
Right. But, this is still an amazing, what food companies have 46% operating margins? That's what McDonald's is dealing with. They're up from 43% back in 2019. They've clearly weathered the inflation storm reasonably well. My question, though, is what comes in the future if you've started to lose that brand dominance, which, that'd be a big bar to get over for me to be convinced that they have. But, is that a possibility in the future?
Well, and the other risk that McDonald's has, too, is remember, as you noted, most McDonald's stores are franchise-owned and operated. They're
At
not
least in the
owned-
U.S., yeah.
At least in the U.S., they're not owned by McDonald's corporate. There's been a lot of pushback on some of the things that McDonald's corporate has been basically making stores do over the last few years in order to, retain the franchise, basically. Investments that they have to make in, the local plant, pricing that they have to go through. And so the other place that I think is interesting to watch on this is at some point the franchisees might just get fed up with it and be like, guys, like, what are we doing here? It hasn't been an issue to this point, and McDonald's is big enough and smart enough to, they know where their bread's buttered.
Sure.
They're not dumb, but they've got to pay attention to this because franchisees are the backbone of that company in the U.S., and they got to be careful with how far they push them, I think, in certain cases there.
Yeah, but I certainly don't think reversing course on that franchise model is the right prescription either. Go take a look at Starbucks and how they've been faring over the last few years, and clearly there are potential pitfalls to any of the models of fast food restaurants. And if you're not familiar, Starbucks has no franchises; they are all corporate owned and run and operated, to my knowledge.
Mike.
What's my name?
If I had to ask you to name one of the biggest corporate frauds of all time, what's the first name that comes to mind for you?
Enron.
Perfect. It was totally unrehearsed. I'm glad that we...
Really? We agree there? Okay, good.
Yeah. So, Enron today, or at least someone purporting to be Enron, launched a Twitter account.
Ooh.
At Enron. And...
Hold on. Is there an Enron employee left?
I don't know what actually happened to the corporate. I've been
Okay.
digging on this between breaks, trying to figure out what's actually going on here. But there's now a new Twitter account at Enron, and it posted something 2 hours ago, and it just says, "We're back, can we talk?" And it's this little 1 minute, montage and everything. And then after that, they did put something up that said, "This is the final tweet in this thread. Any impersonators of Enron below with this are a scam. Don't click any links. Stay safe." So, again, I'm trying to figure out what's actually going on here, but it also teased potentially a crypto token. So I'm trying to just reconcile one of the greatest corporate frauds and scams of all time with Enron and the financial disengineering they did, or misengineering they did back in the late 90s and early 2000s, with the fact that they may now have a crypto platform to potentially work from in the future. And again, I'm trying to figure out if this is an actual thing or not. I still don't know if it's real Enron, and no one seems to know what's going on here, but it is, kind of going around today. But this is one that I just want to follow to see where it goes, because it's one of two things. Either A, this is someone pretending to be Enron and it's a giant scam, in which case, who's going to end up falling for this in the crypto world, and there is no recourse when you fall for a scam in the crypto world? Or is actual Enron trying to relaunch with, crypto backing or something like that?
Good God, can you think of a worse name to attach to a worse industry?
Well, the question that I have, if this is real, why would you even bring the name back? What are you trying to do? Which makes me think it's a scam, but it's getting some buzz today, so I'm trying to figure out what's happening here, and I can't put it together right now.
Yeah, and I can't really figure out who even owns the Enron name and logo at this point. It's that defunct, and it does appear the last company to be sold out of the Enron series of businesses was back in 2006. So long dead is the answer here.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. There's a pretty decent chance this is an actual scam, but it's... Again, this is the world that we live in now, where you can't even tell if a company's really back or not immediately, and they just come out with a Twitter post on it. It's a strange place. Taking a look at markets as we head towards the top of the hour. The Dow's off 123, S&P's up 12, NASDAQ up 192. We're done for the day. We'll see you tomorrow.